ഇസ്രായേൽ ഹമാസ് യുദ്ധം ഒരു മാസത്തോടടുക്കുന്നു. എന്താണ് ഇസ്രായേലിലും ഹമാസ് തീവ്രവാദ കേന്ദ്രങ്ങളിലും സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്? പശ്ചിമേഷ്യയുടെ സമാധാനം അപ്പാടെ തകർത്ത ഈ സാഹചര്യം എങ്ങനെ പുരോഗമിക്കുന്നു? ഇപ്പോൾ സൗത്ത് ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ഇസ്രായേൽ കോൺസുലേറ്റ് ജനറൽ ടാമി ബെൻഹീം നമ്മോടൊപ്പം ചേരുകയാണ്. ഗുഡ് മോർണിംഗ് മാം.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, thank you very much. And we are especially interested with you to talk with you because we are in a confusion how to present the news itself earlier because we don't have proper information from the side of Israel or definitely from Hamas. So directly I'm going to the question that is civilian casualties remain increased in both sides, both in Hamas and in Israel, and release of hostages is also a very serious issue now. So what's the present situation that you can share? What's the issue is there as on today?
Yeah, as you said very correctly, one of the main issues that we have, the Hamas terrorist organization attacked Israel starting on October 7th, over 3 weeks from today. And I'll talk for a moment about their massacre, about the attack of October 7th. But it's important to realize that the Hamas attack on Israel is still going on. So October 7th, around 2,000 Hamas terrorists entered Israel with the objective to kill, torture, maim civilians. They went into small towns, into villages. They killed whole families. They butchered people. They brutalized women. And they also burned people alive and they killed people. This way, they killed in a very, very horrible way 1,400 people. And they kidnapped 241 babies. And when I say babies, I'm talking about babies that are less than a year old. Small children, 2, 3, 4, and 5-year-old. They kidnapped teens. They kidnapped women. They kidnapped men. They kidnapped quite a few people over the age of 75 who are very old. So they kidnapped 240 people and took them back into Gaza. And of course, obviously, Israel immediately sent soldiers, sent troops to stop the attack on October 7th. It took 2 or 3 days of fighting to ensure that the fighting stopped because they were hiding in buildings. They were using civilians. It was quite a large area where they were. And then Israel started bombing or targeting Hamas terror places within the Gaza Strip. They were targeting from the air and the sea, command and control centers, weapon storages, launchers, rocket storage areas. This is what we were doing. And I would say almost a week ago, the ground combat started, and we started bringing soldiers into Gaza. And you're right, it's a very, very difficult situation. And we see, mostly Israel is striking terror targets only. And we've been managed to neutralize and kill many hundreds of terrorists. But you are right, and horribly so, and it is a war against a terror organization. Civilians have been harmed, and there's civilian death on both sides, on the Israeli side and the Palestinian side. But the reason this is happening is that for the 16 years that Hamas is the sole controller of the Gaza Strip, they've been hiding within civilian society. They have been putting the weapon storage under hospitals. They've been storing fuel under mosques. They've been using schools and kindergartens, not for the people, not for the civilians, but for their command and control purposes. They've built a 500-kilometer tunnel and bunker, you can say almost a city, under the city itself. And they've been doing all this for 16 years. They've been building up their terror army. They've been building up their ammunitions and their capabilities instead of taking care of the people. So very sadly, Israel has called for 3 weeks now, and most civilians have left Gaza City. I have listened to Israel. Israel is still warning people, still asking them to leave. But Hamas, has no regard for human life, does not care at all about anybody who's sadly hurt or killed.
Yes, ma'am. Shall I intervene? Shall I ask another question? That is, you have stated many times, Israel has stated that some external support is being given to the Hamas, and definitely Hezbollah have given some supports and all of those things. And definitely the IS involvement is also a suspicious stand behind this issue. So do you think these Hamas attackers on the October 7 has been trained by any other side? I can say American president have stated someone other. Do you think they were trained or they are supported by someone other?
Yeah, we're very clear. I'm not talking about who decided on the October 7th attack. That could be Hamas. But we are very, very clear. Hamas and also the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, another terror group in Gaza, are funded, are trained, are assisted by the Iranian regime. And both these, the Hamas terror organization and the Iranian regime, have the same goal. And they say it, to destroy Israel and to kill Israelis. They have a similar goal, and Hamas has been funding them for many years. In the past 2 or 3 years, they've been funding them even more, training them even more, both in Gaza and outside of Gaza. We see it in the weapons they have. They've been teaching them to build these rockets that are being fired into civilian towns and villages. We see it in some of the assistance, as you yourself said, they're getting from Hezbollah, that is also backed by Iran. There are also other organizations funding these terror organizations. But just one very short sentence, Hamas especially has used not just the funding it gets specifically from places like the Iranian regime that want to destroy Israel, it's also been using the funds and the materials it gets from the international community itself. When European countries, North American countries want to help the civilians in Gaza and they send building materials or they send money for the schools, Hamas is taking that as well and using it for its terror purposes.
So again, I'm coming to the recent development. Yesterday, Antony Blinken had visited there, and Antony Blinken had clearly stated that no one other can take a revenge, take a chance of this issue by involving someone else and taking the benefit of this issue. So do you think anyone doing such, so Hezbollah is there, and do you have any suspicious stand on IS or any other such Islamic organizations which is against Israel?
We're at the moment we're in a war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and as you said, we also have tanks and soldiers in the northern border next to Lebanon dealing with Hezbollah, who's firing at us, and we'll deal with anybody who we need to. But this is one of the reasons, because of this convergence, because of these terror groups working together, we must destroy Hamas to ensure Israel's security and to release the hostages. But we must also destroy Hamas to send a very clear message to, exactly like you said, to the other terror organizations in our region, but generally to terror organizations around the world, because, terror organizations learn from one another and the hate spreads. And if we don't send a very, very clear message, it will come, back to us, and it will come back to other places in the world as well.
Some recent developments were happened in this regard of the humanitarian support that has to be given to the Israeli and definitely the suffering Israeli and definitely suffering Gazans. Do you say that Gaza, the civilians of Gaza is being the human shield and they are being used as a human shield by Hamas?
Yes, it's awful. It's awful when you think about it. One, as I said, for 16 years that Hamas is controlling Gaza, they're not giving things that people need. They're not giving them proper health care, proper education. They're keeping them in a very poor state because they're taking all the supplies and all the money for their own terror groups. Building 500 kilometers of very well-equipped, serious tunnels is not, doesn't happen in a day, and they've been stealing from their own people. So the people in Gaza are not in the best situation anyway under the Hamas terrorist rule. But what is happening now, they're using them. They're telling, when Israel is asking the people, please leave, we're going, we as an army, we go and tell people in advance what area we're going to target so people leave. And Hamas is trying to keep them there. Hamas has been doing it for years. Yesterday, there was a very interesting video coming out that Hamas is saying that they're keeping their fuel supply. They won't give fuels to the hospitals, but they're keeping the fuel supply under Shifa Hospital, which is one of the biggest hospitals. And So, they're hoping it won't be bombed because it's a hospital on top of the fuel supply. But God forbid, and even if there's an accident there and the fuel explodes under a hospital, they have no regard at all for the people living in Gaza, no regard.
Okay, definitely I am coming to the diplomatic relations issues with the India. India has taken a very clear stand in UN that we are against the terrorism, and the terrorism cannot be afforded and it cannot be forgiven. So we have to stand to abstain from the election that the Jordan has been forwarded a resolution, and it was not taken to consideration to our policy, and we abstain from it. So the abstention is, are you supporting that abstention, or are you supporting the stand of India, that is, we are against the terrorism?
One, India has been amazing and very steadfast and clear in its support, not just during the UN election, but from, the day of or the day after the horrible massacre of October 7th. India has said immediately, Prime Minister Modi, the Indian government, and not just the Indian government, most people who talk to us in India have been very, very clear. India is against terrorism, and India understands the right of Israel, as the same the right of any country, or the obligation even of any country, to defend its citizens against terrorist attacks and against terror organizations. And our Prime Minister and Prime Minister Modi have spoken a few times during these past weeks. And India has been a very, very staunch and strong supporter, and we appreciate it deeply, because this is what we need now. We need countries to understand that we're doing what we have to do to protect our citizens. We're doing what we need to do to bring our citizens, the hostages who have been taken, the civilians, the babies who have been taken by Hamas, kidnapped by Hamas, back to Israel. So we appreciate greatly, greatly the stance of India. And I think India is being a very responsible international player. One, India has had Operation Ajay, where she assisted Indian nationals from leaving Israel and coming back to India. And India has sent quite a bit of civilian aid, of humanitarian aid to the people in the Gaza Strip. So I think it's very responsible, and very, for us, it's very important, the very clear support we're getting from India.
Okay, thank you. And one more issue I have to discuss with you, that some Israeli media has stated that the relocation of Gaza to some Egyptian places and such things have been reported. And the Israeli intelligence ministry has made such an initiation. Do you say it's the right thing that the media has been given, or is it the stand of Israel?
No, it is not the official stand of the Israel government. The Israel government many times, both to, as you said, the presidents and prime ministers who came to visit us, and also Secretary of State Blinken, who was just there yesterday, like you mentioned, we are very clear. We have three goals in this war. One, to bring security and safety back to the people of Israel. Two, to destroy Hamas military capabilities, to make sure Hamas terror organization cannot attack Israel again. And the third is to release the hostages, to release the 241 civilians that Hamas has kidnapped. These are our goals. Look, I'm not going to make excuses, but in a time of war, many people say different things, especially internally, to the audiences. Israel left Gaza in 2005, over 18 years ago. We have no, we don't want to control Gaza. We don't want to decide who's living there or who's not living there. That is not our issue. Our sole issue is with the Hamas terror organization.
Okay, and definitely the Arab countries have some linear stand in this regard, and they have supporting all the measures that you protect the humanitarian aid, and all such things are being happened. And the recent developments of the Arabian countries, recent diplomatic relations with the Arabian countries is very much better than ever while comparing to Israel in the early times. So do you think the stand of Arabian countries is the right way?
Look, each Arab or Muslim country is dealing with it differently, is saying different things. It's been an issue for them for years. Many are assisting, many are helping out the Gaza Strip, despite the fact that it's controlled by Hamas terror groups for years. they're also playing. We see most of the countries understand the right of Israel to defend itself, understand that a terror organization should not be right at our borders, being able to attack us so brutally and so horribly. But they have affinity, they have ties, they have connections. One to the Palestinian Authority, which is out of the issue, but also to the Gaza Strip. We've heard very clear sayings from different Arab and Muslim countries that they will continue the relationship with us, that we need to have a peaceful, cooperative Middle East. And this is what we're vying for. This is what Israel wants. We want to live in peace. We want to live in security. We want to prosper together with our neighbors. And, we have peace agreements with quite a few of our neighbors, and hopefully the numbers will grow in the near future. This is what countries, make sense, like India, like Israel, other like-minded countries that are in our region have proven we want to work together to solve the problems in the area, solve issues like climate and water and food security. We were surprised by this horrible attack and this war, like everybody else was. This is not anything we would have ever wanted. And, we're praying and hoping, and our, brave soldiers are fighting now to bring this quiet back to us, bring the hostages back to us as soon as possible.
You have stated that India has given very much good support to you. And what kind of support from our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji, and what kind of support that India has to provide Israel in this present juncture?
I think, this is the support we need. We need India to be clear in its stand against terrorism. Obviously, we would be very happy if India joins, I think, over 40 countries around the world, including the U.S., Australia, the EU countries, saying that Hamas is a terror organization, declaring Hamas or recognizing Hamas as a terror organization. But India stands on our side. India's assistance, humanitarian assistance to Gaza, India being a responsible international player, this is the support we need right now, from the Indian government and from the people of India, and we very much appreciate getting it.
So you are very clear about the declaration of Hamas as a terror organization by India.
Yeah, that would be a great next step. Switzerland just the other day declared the Hamas a terrorist organization. Germany, who has already, Hamas is considered a terrorist organization there, clearly said that it will ban any and all Hamas activities in Germany. It obviously is. Hamas is like ISIS, and there was an international coalition. Everybody understood that ISIS must be destroyed. Their brutality, their inhumanity, their willingness not to stop at anything and kill babies and kill women and kill civilians to get what they want. The world understood, when the U.S. led the coalition, the world understood that ISIS must be destroyed. It wasn't a question. It wasn't an issue. We all saw what they did, and we knew they had to be destroyed. Same as Hamas. They've proven that they're like ISIS, like other horrible, international terrorist organization, and they must be stopped because they're not going to stop on their own. They're not rational. They're not like-minded. They don't think like you and I do and your audience does. They have hate. They have brutality. They're barbaric, and they won't stop until we stop them.
Okay, definitely you are again and again repeating that IS and these Hamas have some similarities. Or do you say that Hamas is a copy of IS now?
A copy, mimicking, whatever it is, it's using the same tactics. It's using beheading. It's using rape. It's using torture. It's using civilians. It's hiding in civilian population while trying to kill civilians. If it kills like ISIS, if it says the same things as ISIS, if it behaves like ISIS, if it has no regard for human life like ISIS, then yeah, Hamas is ISIS.
The Hezbollah and the IS and everything is there, and Hezbollah is surrounded by, Hezbollah is one of the border sharing terror organization of Israel, and this border sharing terror organization states Israel is nothing and Israel could not do anything in the coming future, and whether it would be the great threat to the society or the world in the coming days. That is my question.
We are hoping that not. At the moment, we are on both fronts, because we have been getting UAVs and other types of attacks, including terrorists trying to infiltrate from Lebanon into Israel. So far, our tanks at the border, our troops at the border have been able to stop all attempts from the north. And let's hope it continues this way. Let's hope, we don't suffer any more people killed or children wounded.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. We have not enough time more to discuss. So thank you very much for joining with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on.
ISന് സമാനമാണ് ഹിസ്ബുള്ളയുടെ പ്രവർത്തനം, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഹമാസിൻ്റെയും പ്രവർത്തനം എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് ടാമി ബെനിൻ പറഞ്ഞു വയ്ക്കുന്നത്. തീർച്ചയായും ലോകത്തിന് ഭീഷണിയാകുന്നൊരു സാഹചര്യമുണ്ട് എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുന്നത്.